everybody, welcome back to another ICA online service. This is Ardo and here's Sarah.
Here are some of the things you need to know are happening at ICA this week.
We have children's church material available for your kids. You can download it at bit.ly/ICA Kids Online. We hope you and your child can have a great experience and encounter God together. Follow ICA Kids on Instagram to get the latest updates from ICA Kids. ICA prayer service is going stronger on Zoom. Every Tuesday at 6:30 till 7:30 p.m. You can check our Instagram on Tuesday to get the meeting ID and let us be strengthened by praying together. Giving in ICA has never been easier. You can simply scan the QR code on the screen or visit icasby.com/giving for more information. Have you followed ICA on social media and subscribed to the ICA channel? We prepare devotion, recipes, and more interesting content and updates to accompany you during the quarantine, because physical distancing is not spiritual distancing. Annual business meeting is happening on October 25th at 6:30 p.m. on Zoom. This event is for ICA members only. If you're a member of ICA, you will receive an email containing more information about this event. Keep focused. We're starting a new Bible reading plan to keep you focused until the end of the year. You can enter the link on our slide or scan the QR code to get started. Follow us on social media to get more information. All right, that's it for the announcements. Worship is about to begin, but don't forget to follow us on social to stay connected to Jesus and to each other. Just want to invite you guys to God's presence, and I pray for God's presence to encourage you, to strengthen you. Enjoy and have a great service.
Alright, good morning ICA, wherever you are, we're gonna worship God together. Let's go. Praise Him, you stars above, galaxies all in motion. Praise Him, you thunderclouds, ringing throughout the heavens. From every mountain top to every wild ocean, oh, hear all the universe sing praise, sing praise. Let everything that breathes, let all the earth proclaim, great is the Lord our God, praise Him forever. Let all that is within me magnify His name, great is the Lord our God, praise Him forever. For the life He's given, praise Him, you rescued one. Joy in the Son of Heaven, from every mountain top to every wild ocean. Oh, hear all the universe sing praise. Oh, sing praise. Let everything that breathes, let all the earth proclaim, great is the Lord our God, praise Him forever. Let all that is within me magnify His name, great is the Lord our God, praise Him forever. Hear the holy roar, hear this anthem rise in the house of God. All creation cries. Hear the holy roar, hear this anthem rise in the house of God. All creation cries. Hear the holy roar, hear this anthem rise in the house of God. All creation cries. Hear the holy roar, hear this anthem rise in the house of God. All creation cries. Oh, sing praise. Let everything that breathes, let all the earth proclaim, great is the Lord our God. Praise Him forever. Let all that is within me magnify His name. Great is the Lord our God. Praise Him forever. Praise Him forever. Praise Him forever. Hear the holy roar, hear the holy roar, hear the holy roar. Praise Him forever. Great is your faithfulness, O God. You wrestle with the sinner's heart. You lead us back to your waters and to mercy, and nothing can keep us apart. So remember your people, remember your children, remember your promise, oh God. Your grace is enough, your grace is enough, your grace is enough for me. Great is your love and justice, God. You use the weak to lead the strong. You lead us in the song of your salvation, and all your people sing along. So remember your people, remember your children, remember your promise, oh God. Your grace is enough, your grace is enough, your grace is enough for me. Your grace is enough, your grace is enough, your grace is enough for me. So remember your people, remember your children, remember your promise, oh God.
Yes, Lord.
Your grace is enough, your grace is enough. Your grace is enough for me. Your grace is enough. Your grace is enough. Your grace is enough for me. Your grace is enough. Your grace is enough. Your grace is enough for me. Thank you for your grace, God. Thank you so much, Jesus. You are so good, Lord. You give life. You are love. You bring light to the darkness. You give hope. You restore every heart that is broken. Great are you, Lord. It's your breath in our lungs, so we pour out our praise. We pour out our praise. It's your breath in our lungs, so we pour out our praise to you only. You give life. You are love. You bring light to the darkness. You give hope. You restore every heart that is broken. Great are you, Lord. It's your breath in our lungs, so we pour out our praise. Pour out our praise. It's your breath in our lungs, so we pour out our praise to you only. It's your breath in our lungs, so we pour out our praise. We pour out our praise. It's your breath in our lungs, so we pour out our praise to you only. All the earth will shout your praise. Our hearts will cry, these bones will sing. Great are you, Lord. All the earth will shout your praise. Our hearts will cry, these bones will sing. Great are you, Lord. All the earth will shout your praise. Our hearts will cry, these bones will sing. Great are you, Lord. It's your breath in our lungs, so we pour out our praise. We pour out our praise. It's your breath in our lungs, so we pour out
Lord Jesus, this morning, you are great. And God, we acknowledge your position, Lord, in our lives. You are great in our lives this morning, Lord. God, we just pray that your hand and your blessing be upon each person behind every screen, and that, Lord, they would meet the power of your Holy Spirit wherever they are today. Lord, we pray for the anointing of God upon your people, your protection and your provision. Lord, we pray for your Spirit to guide and direct them, Lord. God, would you make your name known, and would you be great in our lives, Lord? Would you be great in our church? Would you be great in our city and in our nation, oh Lord? God, we just thank you this morning, and we give ourselves to you. In Jesus' name, amen. Selamat datang teman-teman saudara-saudari yang berbahasa Indonesia. Ini adalah gereja untuk orang Indonesia juga. Setiap minggu, ibadah kami di YouTube mempunyai teks terjemahan dalam bahasa Indonesia. Silakan menyalakan ini dengan menekan tombol CC di bagian bawah layar di YouTube. Mengajak semua teman-teman yang berbahasa Indonesia untuk bergabung dengan kami. Our sermon series on the life of Jesus will continue this week and next. We encourage you to watch The Chosen, the video series that this sermon series is based on. The Chosen can be found on YouTube, or you can download the app VidAngel for free and watch it there. Many of you are enjoying watching the series with your families during the week. Our family has enjoyed watching the videos more than once, and I know that you will enjoy them too. Small groups at ICA are watching and discussing the videos during the week. If you are not a part of a small group, perhaps you're a single adult living alone and social distancing is driving you crazy because of the isolation, go to ICA's website, click on groups. There are 4 different types of small groups to fit your particular situation, and 33 different active groups in locations throughout the city. You can contact any of the group leaders directly through the website, get information, and plug into some community. Today we are in episode number 7 of our series on the life of Jesus. It's entitled Invitations. This episode will focus primarily on the impact of Jesus on 2 main characters, Matthew, an accountant, and Nicodemus, the scholar. But before we get into that, have you ever received an invitation to an exclusive party or a wedding? How did you feel after being invited to participate in some kind of an important or meaningful project or endeavor? Did it feel good, like you really mattered to someone? I'm sure it did. You know, a few years ago, I was asked to participate in a meeting that included some pretty important and significant people that I looked up to, but now I was being asked to be a part and contribute. I have to be honest with you, I was both terrified and honored at the same time. I even tried to decline the offer, but the person inviting me said, "John, you belong in this group. You need to go." And I felt honored, and I went. An invitation can have a powerful impact on our sense of self-worth. Jesus was a man of invitations. He was constantly inviting people to come, to see, to believe, to receive, and to follow. The Gospel of Matthew was written by Matthew, one of the 12 disciples of Jesus. Matthew, as a Jew, wrote a book to his Jewish brothers and sisters. His purpose was to make a connection between Jesus the Messiah and Old Testament prophecy. But before Matthew met Jesus, he was a social outcast. He was hated, in fact. Not the kind of leader you would enlist if you wanted the credibility to start a global spiritual movement. But I have to say, Matthew is one of my favorite characters in the video series, The Chosen. Their portrayal of Matthew is both fascinating and brilliant. But we know from his writings that Matthew was a highly skilled man. He was good with details, accounting, and reason. He was smarter than most everyone. His ability opened the door for his own professional success. He became an important government official, and he achieved significance, power, and wealth. He associated with powerful people, particularly with the Romans who controlled Israel in the 1st century BC. In many ways, Matthew was a portrait of what many people see as success today. Matthew valued money and wealth above all other concerns. He took a job working for the Romans, collecting taxes from his own people. And perhaps you've run into someone who doesn't care about anyone other than themselves. They will take advantage of every opportunity to cheat or to steal from anyone in order to enrich themselves. Well, that was Matthew. Matthew got rich off the blood and sweat of his own people, and he was hated for it. And then Jesus literally walks up to Matthew, gives him an invitation. In Matthew chapter 9, we read about it. Chapter 9, verse 9, it says, "As Jesus was walking along, he saw a man named Matthew sitting at his tax collector's booth. 'Follow me and be my disciple,' Jesus said to him. So Matthew got up and followed him. Later, Matthew invited Jesus and his disciples to his home as dinner guests, along with many tax collectors and other disreputable sinners. Sometimes it's a bit shocking who Jesus invites to follow him. It's equally surprising to see who responds to Jesus' invitation. Jesus very often associated with people that were considered distasteful. But let me ask you a question this morning. Who do you find distasteful, dislikable, or disagreeable today? We need to understand Jesus loves and invites disagreeable people to follow him. Jesus offers those people the same invitation he offers us. Right now, the social and political discourse in the United States is intense, it's hostile, and even dysfunctional. A friend I follow on Facebook has a lot to say on a variety of political and social issues. I find it difficult to relate to them because we have such divergent perspectives on political and social issues. But in the last month, I cannot help but think how much Jesus loves this person. In fact, they would make an intense Jesus follower. And for about a month, when I see their posts, I just can't help but praying for this person because they would make such a great follower of Jesus. First century society, like today, had standards for what was acceptable and what was unacceptable in people. Matthew chapter 9, verse 11, "But when the Pharisees saw this, they asked his disciples, 'Why does your teacher eat with such scum?' When Jesus heard this, he said, 'Healthy people don't need a doctor, sick people do.' And then he added, 'Now go and learn the meaning of this scripture. I want you to show mercy, not offer sacrifices. For I have come to call not those who think they are righteous, but those who know they are sinners.'" Jesus came for both the good people and the bad people who know they are sinners, and for everyone else in between. Whoever is most distasteful and frustrating to you right now, that is the person that Jesus came for. That is the person Jesus loves and died for. Do you want to be like Jesus? Well, if that's the case, love your enemies and bless those who don't like you. Jesus said in Matthew chapter 5, verse 44, "Love your enemies, pray for those who persecute you. In that way, you will be acting as true children of your Father in heaven." Guys, that is the true mark of Christian maturity. Do you want to demonstrate the power of God? Jesus changes. Do you want a demonstration, of the power of God? Jesus changes the hearts of people so that they can love those who are unacceptable to others. You want a demonstration of the power that a Surabayan will understand? Jesus walked up to Matthew, a successful, rich man, invites him to follow, and Matthew leaves his wealth, his success, and everything to follow Jesus. Matthew had everything that life could offer. Jesus comes to him and says, "Follow me," and Matthew left it all. Understand this. Jesus didn't invite Matthew to follow him because he was rich. Jesus invited Matthew to follow because Jesus loved him. We think Jesus is only for those who have nothing, who are broken, who are down and out. Certainly God does love the poor and calls us to love them as well. But know this, Jesus has no problem inviting those with everything. To the rich or the poor, Jesus extends the same invitation. He says, "Follow me." The second character in this episode is Nicodemus, the academic, who is quietly searching for the truth. Nicodemus was a leader in the Sanhedrin, the ruling council of Israel. He was a Pharisee, which meant he strictly followed the law of Moses. Jesus often came into conflict with these Pharisees because of his popularity and his miracles. That threatened their power and control over Israel. Nicodemus was a bit different from most of the Pharisees because Nicodemus was genuinely searching for the truth. Nicodemus was a man torn between two worlds. On one hand, he's a Pharisee, committed to the law of Moses and the traditions that they have followed for centuries. He's committed to his position and the privilege that it provides. And then on the other hand, he cannot deny the miracles that this itinerant preacher from Nazareth is performing. Miracles the likes of which have not been seen since the time of the Exodus. Nicodemus has to walk a very careful line because he knows he's got a lot to lose. So he goes privately at night and meets with Jesus. Now, I want to talk to some of you who are watching right now, and perhaps you're not a follower of Jesus. But like Nicodemus, you're honestly looking for the truth. You're looking for the truth for your own life, how to make sense of this crazy world. You're searching for meaning. You're searching for purpose. You want the truth, as uncomfortable as it might be. You don't care what the change the truth may demand of you. You simply want the truth about who Jesus is. If you are that honest seeker of truth like Nicodemus, don't go to Facebook, don't go to Instagram, don't go Google, the question or go to your friends' opinions. If you're looking for truth, read the book with Jesus' words in it, the Bible. Read what Jesus said in Matthew, Mark, Luke, and John. And then ask Jesus to reveal himself to you. The story continues in John chapter 3, verse 2. "Rabbi," Nicodemus said, "we all know that God has sent you to teach us. Your miraculous signs are evidence that God is with you." Did you hear Nicodemus's confession? He knows that Jesus was sent by God to teach the smartest academics in all of Israel. He cites Jesus' miracles as the evidence of his divine authority and the proof that God was with him. The irony is, while the Pharisees know Jesus is sent with power and authority from God, they still reject him. Listen, we can believe that Jesus is God's Son, sent into the world to die for sin, and that he offers forgiveness, and still not experience his salvation. You have to both believe, and then you have to accept the invitation to follow. Nicodemus is a man who is genuinely hungry for the truth. John chapter 3, verse 3, he continues, Jesus replied, I tell you the truth, unless you are born again, you cannot see the kingdom of God. What do you mean? Exclaimed Nicodemus. How can an old man go back into his mother's womb and be born again? Jesus replied, I assure you, no one can enter the kingdom of God without being born of water and the Spirit. Humans can reproduce only human life, but the Holy Spirit gives birth to spiritual life. So just as you can hear the wind but can't tell where it comes from or where it is going, so you can't explain how people are born of the Spirit. How are these things possible? Nicodemus asked. Nicodemus was wrestling with the reality that the kingdom of God that Jesus was there to establish was not a political kingdom. It was a kingdom established in the human heart. The idea of being born again was not something strange to a first century Jew. When a foreigner became a follower of God, he was often thought of as being reborn or born again. Even the Greek mystery religions prominent throughout the Roman world understood the idea of rebirth. The Hermetic mysteries had as part of their basic belief, there can be no salvation without regeneration. Nicodemus didn't struggle with the desirability of being born again. Nicodemus, a teacher of Israel, just couldn't figure out how it actually worked. How does the power of God actually change a person's heart? John 3 verse 10 he continues, Jesus replied, you are a respected Jewish teacher, and you don't understand these things? I assure you, we tell you what we know and have seen, and yet you won't believe our testimony. But if you don't believe me when I tell you about earthly things, how can you possibly believe if I tell you about heavenly things? No one has ever gone to heaven and returned, but the Son of Man has come down from heaven. Jesus is stating to Nicodemus his divine credentials. He's saying, look, I know these things because I'm the Son of God who came from heaven. In John 3 verse 14 he continues, and as Moses lifted up the bronze snake on the pole in the wilderness, so the Son of Man must be lifted up, so that everyone who believes in him will have eternal life. Jesus tells the future to Nicodemus using language that Nicodemus would understand. Jesus is referring back to the story in Exodus. Just as the bronze snake made by Moses was raised on a pole for the healing of the people in their sickness, so Jesus would be lifted up on a cross to bring healing to the human heart. Jesus would be executed, raised from the dead, and bring healing to humanity. But how does that happen? How does the power of God make a person new, to be born again? Well, think of it like this. All of us today are watching this online broadcast on some kind of a screen. It's either a TV or a laptop or a mobile phone, something. But how many of us can actually explain the technical aspects of how this technology actually works? How the light comes from where I'm at to where the camera is digitized to generate an electronic code. And then that code is transmitted through various wavelengths of electromagnetic radiation to another device across a variety of networks into another device where it is then decoded, and little tiny lights, these diodes called pixels, in your screen that you're looking at right now light up to form an ever-changing picture that your retina in the back of your eyeball, the rods and cone cells that we learned about in biology class, they detect that light And then they translate that into an electrical signal, which is passed along a biological network all the way to your brain. And then there it is interpreted by a biological machine as video that we recognize and understand. How many of us can actually really understand and explain that? For the most of us, all we really know is that right now you see on your screen the picture that is taking place right here. And we're enjoying the benefits. So it is with the power of God to change lives. We can't see it. We don't really know quite how it works, but we see its effect on lives. Jesus explained to Nicodemus using the example of wind. He said, you can't see it, but you can see its effects, and you can feel its effects. In the same way, the Spirit of God brings transformation to lives who are born again. We can't explain exactly how it works, but you can't argue with the evidence of a changed life. No one can disregard the power of Jesus to change bad people into good people, broken hearts into healed hearts. The problem Nicodemus faced was the problem of a man who wants to be changed, but is incapable of changing his own heart. Nicodemus' question was, how do you change a human heart? And Jesus' answer was, it is a work of the Spirit by the power of God. Matthew, the man getting rich at the expense of his own people, accepts Jesus' invitation to follow him. He leaves everything to follow Jesus. He's born again, and as a result, he ends up writing the book of Matthew, which we're reading today. And he went on to share the message of Jesus through the rest of his life in places like Persia and Ethiopia, and possibly was martyred. Nicodemus wrestled with his faith in Jesus for some time. But at Jesus' trial, Nicodemus stands up for Jesus. And later, Nicodemus helped Joseph of Arimathea bury Jesus in the tomb. It seems that Nicodemus eventually was born again and was one of the priests and teachers of the law who began to follow Jesus after the resurrection. Nicodemus, the academic, met Jesus looking for the truth. And Jesus invites Nicodemus to believe in him and experience being born again and a heart transformation. Jesus offers the same invitation to everyone. The invitation to come, to follow Jesus, to be born again, and experience a life renewed. Jesus offers the invitation to you. I want you to think about this invitation for a moment. The Bible says that Jesus was there at the moment of creation, that he had a hand in creation itself. He is the only begotten Son of God. He rules at the right hand of God the Father, the Bible says. Death itself bows to his will. The universe, both seen and unseen, human history from the very beginning to its end, all are subject to his supreme authority. You cannot find a more significant relationship to have. The relationship between you and Jesus. There is no more exclusive club that you could belong to. In the grandest sense, the entire Bible is God's invitation to humanity. God entered human history to destroy that man-made wall of sin that separates us from him. As powerful, as exclusive, as holy, as important, as separate as God is, he invites us to have friendship with him. God invites us to have relationship with him. Knowing our own sin, our weaknesses, our faults, and our failures, God invites us. God invites you and me into a relationship with him. Not because you have anything to offer, but because God just simply loves you. How do you respond to a God like that? You might be here watching this and thinking that your life is worthless or insignificant, not going anywhere. You've got nothing to contribute. You may be broken or have failed in some way, but you need to understand this. You are so important to God that He sent His own Son to earth to extend to you His personal invitation. And Jesus explained this invitation in John chapter 3, verse 16. He said it this way, "For this is how God loved the world. He gave His one and only Son, so that everyone who believes in Him will not perish, but have eternal life." The explanation for the invitation is that God simply loves people. Believe it or not, God wants to spend eternity with you. So He sent His personal representative, Jesus, to deliver this invitation. And the cost of that invitation demanded the very life of His own Son. And Jesus paid the price of the delivery on our behalf. And the invitation is not just to a party or a meeting or a wedding. It is more than that. The invitation is for you to experience life with Jesus for eternity. Now that you know how important you are in the eyes of God, now that you know how much God loves you, now that you know how costly the invitation was, knowing that the only thing that you have to do is to believe and follow, how do you respond to the invitation? The invitation, not just to a party or a wedding, but the invitation to live with Jesus forever in a place that Scripture says is custom built for you. I want you to know that whether you're rich or you're poor, whether you're smart or just average, whether you're young or you're old, you're invited by Jesus to believe and to follow. And I guess the only question remains is, will you accept His invitation? Will you believe and will you follow? Lord Jesus, this morning we just thank You for the Word of God. We thank You that You were willing to extend invitations to people that, man, when we look at them, we're like, how in the world would You be willing to invite them? But Lord, You are willing. And God, You're willing to invite us. And Lord, I just pray across this city and wherever people are meeting and watching, Lord, the power of Your Holy Spirit would be there right now to draw them. Would You speak to their hearts? Would You speak to their minds? Would You reveal Yourself to them? God, would You make that invitation to believe and to follow? And Lord, I pray that they would accept that invitation and experience being reborn, life made new in their own lives. Lord, I ask these things in Jesus' name. Amen. Now, if that was you this morning and you made that choice to believe and to follow, I want you to go to ICA's website. There is a specific button on our website that says, "Yes, I believe." If you go there and click that button, I want you to know that we will follow up with you and someone will contact you and we'll talk about, well, what do I do from this point moving forward in following Jesus? For the rest of you, I just pray your blessing, God's blessing on you. I pray that you'd have a great week, that God would provide, that God would guide, and that God would give you great joy this week. God bless. We'll see you next week.
We will stand through fire, we will walk through waters, full of faith and passion. More than loud of praises, find our hearts repentant. This is the sound of revival.